right? You heard from victims, those in the IDP camps, and one thing they're saying is we're suffering here. You heard that from several of them who are suffering here. And
also they want to go back home. You know what that means? I mean, you live where you know as home. There is an emotional attachment.
Exactly. Now, public affairs analyst Dayo Olomuwagun joins us now to discuss this. Dayo, good morning. It's good to have you join us.
Good morning. My pleasure always.
Let me get your surname. I like African names. I like African names. Olomuwagun.
So I thank you for that. It's actually Lomuwagun.
Lomuwagun. Lomuwagun. Okay. I was just adding an extra.
Lomuwagun.
Okay. But fine. Thank you very much. Now, I know the story of IDPs is not new to you when it comes to the state of how things have been, whether it is in the northeast or in the north central or in any part of the country for that matter. But one question I have to ask generally, how difficult or why is it so difficult to take care of IDPs?
I think the first thing we want to look at is it's a big phenomenon in the country. I mean, with you having more than 2 million people living in IDP camps all over the place, both inside and outside the country. So it's difficult because you cannot manage that situation spontaneously. There should be a clear plan, there should be a clear policy, there should be a clear framework.
Why is it difficult that we are not managing 2 million people? That does not even constitute 10% of the Nigerian population. There is the social intervention program of the federal government. Yesterday we talked about the Abacha loot being distributed to the poorest of the poor. These are just 2 million people, for crying out loud. Without that, without all the humanitarian interventions, the UN, the aid workers, this should be the Nigerian project, and we shouldn't have an excuse of not having enough to cater for them.
So clearly, again, it's not the issue whether you have enough or not enough. We have more than enough, but like I said, it borders on do we have a policy? Do we have a framework that manages this? Yeah, you have all kinds of humanitarian organizations, humanitarian, parastatals set up to address this kind of issue. And they work here and there in silos and all that. But you see, when we don't have a clear plan, a clear structure of how things work, that possibly is backed up by law. And you see, people do things and there are no consequences for their action. I mean, you don't punish when people go wrong. We were together in this country when somebody said they used about 250 million to clear
grass.
And grass. And you're wondering which kind of grass is that. So again, the first challenge we will have is, do we actually have a clear framework? How does it work in other countries, even some African countries? And because it's not peculiar to Nigeria.
But is this framework you're talking about, is it a rocket science? Because it appears to me like each state, for instance, has an IDP. They can identify the number of people there. It's about getting the sharing formula, bringing out money, and supplying their needs. Is it more complex than that?
So we look at what issues we have in our hands. Now you hear the guys talking there. Clearly, I mean, the taste of hunger, health issues, and people want to go back to their permanent places. Now, if you pick it from there, you talk about food, you talk about health. Ask yourself, even the people who are not in IDP camps, what do they have from the state? So sometimes the challenge here is, it's not really whether we have the resources or not, is the will to actually make things happen. Go to your hospitals, even for people, those of us who are not in IDP camps, and let's see what obtained. Even in your Abuja Aso Rock course that they don't have paracetamol the other day. And you're wondering, how did we get to this point?
So in this case, it's not even the issue of, one would say from what you're saying now, it's not even the issue of lack of will. It is the issue of deliberate mischief and corruption in that case. Because the point there is, we're talking about people who have been displaced, especially for those in the northeast, for instance, and then the refugees from Cameroon that are also in Nigeria right now. They are displaced by insecurity in their ancestral homes and all of that. Now, it was recently the House of Rep released videos, pictures of rice, bags of rice, warehoused hundreds of bags of rice, or maybe even running into thousands. They were all spoiled. And these were all donated by foreign governments, and we've been calling governments to come to our aid, and they did, and they were not distributing this to the people. Isn't that mischief or maybe corruption outrightly? In fact, it goes beyond the issue of lack of will.
So again, like I mentioned, you see, it is this having clear structure of how things are done. Who does what? Whose responsibility is to do this, do that? Because clearly you could have it stuck somewhere.
Don't we have that already? The National Emergency Management Agency, isn't that the #1 agency that should coordinate, you know, or galvanize all the donations from governments, from international organizations, from churches, from mosques, and from individuals for the people?
Too many issues around. So you talk about NEMA. You talk about the National, I think it's the National Commission on the Northeast. You see, and all kinds of, there's this one we just set up recently, the Buhari, I've forgotten the name. You know, all kinds of organizations coming up. Everybody going to the Northeast. Everybody going to Benue and these other places. Now, who does what? Now, instead of operating in silos, is there a way that you can bring all these bodies together and in a clear framework that make people to know what to do and who does what? Now, having mentioned that, you see, whatever happened in the IDP, you cannot isolate it from whatever happened in the larger society. Now, the question is, what obtained in a larger society? You mentioned the issue of corruption. You mentioned the issue of the way to make things happen. You mentioned you see, things happen and we don't have a clear way of addressing it. So instead of the people in the IDP camp reducing, they keep growing. The people there, they're saying we want to come out. Now, before you open your eyes, some new set of people, you have new arrivals. Because we don't look at the remote and the immediate causes of these things. So where, for example, in the Northeast, Boko Haram thing are defeated, what do we have there today? And whether you like it or not, Nigeria is such a way where people attach so much to their place of origin, to their place of birth.
Ancestral homes.
To their ancestral home. Thank you.
So the challenge is indeed admired, from the diversion of food supply that is meant for IDPs. You know, you mentioned millions of naira used to cut grass. There is insecurity even within the IDP. But I want you to react very quickly to an allegation by Amnesty International early in the year that there is an apparent abuse by military personnel on, you know, the IDPs, the fact that they had to sleep with them, to give them food. All of these are allegations. But are you convinced with the response from the military and how government has handled all of these allegations?
You see, every country has a right to protect their own. You want to protect your security forces, it's understood. You see, but such grievous allegation, very grave allegation, cannot come up and will dispel it with left hand the way we did. And we say, no, it's not true, Amnesty is not correct, it doesn't happen. What has our government done to dig into this? Now, people who are not even in IDP camp, they are subjected to some of these abuses that's going around. And these people are coming up in this camp, and people like Amnesty, for God's sake, what do they have at stake here? So I think the way that was dispelled, and every Nigerian should not be pleased.
All right. But do you think that maybe beyond what we see, there's a likelihood of using IDPs as a weapon as a weapon to keep getting grants? Do you think there's a possibility of something like that?
You see, the way things are going, I think I may just have to subscribe to this suggestion you are raising, this idea you're raising. It's become a big business. It's become a big business, both to the humanitarian organization. I mean, you always get inflows coming into the country, and to the major players involving, around this IDP issue. Whether it's the people taking care of them, whether it's the government itself, you know, it's become a big business. We're talking about millions of dollars coming every time, and you can't see results. People are still hungry, are still hungry, and you know, the abuse and all these things are still there. Now, what is the government doing? If really we are concerned, like you say, it's not a rocket science. I Maybe you have food, just to move food to the location and share.
Yeah, exactly.
If government is really concerned, we know the causes.
Of course. We have to round it off here now because the issue there is we've seen even churches organize programs where hundreds of thousands of people gather, and people are fed morning, afternoon, evening, and everyone goes home happy. But we have to thank you very much for coming on the program this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Always my pleasure.